ask you a couple things about your Japanese culture, because apparently people don't believe you're Japanese.
I know, yeah. We had this argument at dinner because Dan keeps asking for my very personal information, which is my genetics, and I'm not handing that over.
Well, let's be honest. If Dan wanted them, Dan could get them.
That's true too. He probably already has them. He probably knows it more than I do.
He probably just wants to see what you're going to give him, to see if you're telling him the truth of the one he already has that's matched up.
Right,
from
integrity
birth.
test.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be a Dan move.
He was giving me so much because he kept trying to call me white, and I was like, even if that's true, which it's genetically not. The way that I was raised was very much like first generation Japanese American, Buddhism, all of that stuff. So it's a huge influence regardless if I look like it or not. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. So do you know about the yellow bucket hats in Japan?
It's the dummy hats, right?
For children?
Is that what you're talking about? The dummy hats?
No. I don't think this is a positive thing. Okay. No, this is a positive thing that Japan does. And I love this. And this goes back to what we were talking about with Abigail's book a little bit. And they were talking at least in that podcast, they were discussing about how North American children don't take healthy risk. We don't give them an opportunity for growth or to show them that they're capable of doing a task. We're always hover parenting, these Snapchat parents and all of this lovely jazz. So Japan does this thing where from a really, really young age, you go on the subways and the trains and you go to school by yourself. You can go down to the shop and pick up, some bread or, milk. It used to be cigarettes. Now it's not. And you can do that on your own and you can come home safely. And what they do is they give these little yellow bucket hats.
I thought it was a badge.
Okay, no, the last one I saw was they have bucket hats now.
Okay.
And they do have a badge they wear too, but they say it stands out a little more.
That makes sense.
And if a child comes up to you who was wearing one of the hats, it's your job as a Japanese member to look after the children of Japan. And I thought that was the most beautiful and hope-fulfilling thing that a country was doing. And I want to know your take on it, because I am for giving kids risk, but we live at least in North America, in this weird place where risk is a little more difficult to offer in a safe environment. So I just want to know your thoughts on that.
It's so funny. So yeah, I'm aware of that. I didn't know it was hats. The one that I saw were these badges, and the same thing. If you see this little kid and they need help, it's your job as a community member to make sure that they are sorted, that they can walk across the street, that they can navigate the subway. They are everyone's children. And I used this in the clip show for Canceled Weekly. And Gerard had feelings, because of course Gerard had feelings. And he's like, well, no, because it's not my kid. And then people are going to take advantage. And then what do you see when you have this kid that has really shit parents, and then I have to keep picking up the kid, and then eventually it's my kid. And like, you're right, he just took it off. Okay, that's a possibility for some. I don't think that that's happening in Japan. We also have a wildly different culture and infrastructure than Japan. So look at their subways and our subways. I would never put a child on the subway alone here, especially in New York City. It's not the same as Tokyo. You can't pretend it's the same. So I think what they have is a much more manicured, sterilized environment to where that's possible. It's also a lot more walkable than a lot of our cities and towns. So I don't know how much of that we would feasibly be able to do, although I love instilling the autonomy and agency into a small kid. So something that they do in the school system there as well, is they don't have janitors. So the kids are responsible for maintaining the learning environment. And you can say like, that's not okay, but it teaches them, it teaches them to be invested in their space and to contribute and hard work. And I mean, I think that's really valuable. They have very intentional lunch. There's no phones or like you're sitting there. There's no talking. You can talk after lunch. But during lunch, it's to be really present with your food. So they're teaching consciousness and mindfulness at a very young age. So I think that there's a lot that they're doing that's great. Their young people are also really struggling with a lot of mental health as well, and connection. And the average age of a virgin in Japan is 30.
Whoa.
And they are very quick. Like the birth gap there is astonishing. So they're definitely not a perfect society either, but it's how do you take what's helpful and leave what's not, just like anything else. So what are they doing that you think that we could implement, and then what is maybe not for us? So I think giving kids responsibility, especially if you have boys. So my oldest son is 4. He loves helping with groceries, even ones that are really heavy. You can see him light up. So I let him. He opens up the front door. We get him delivered most of the time because going to the grocery store with 2 littles is just not ideal.
No.
And so they get delivered to the front door, but I let him open the front door. He knows that he's not allowed to unless he asks, but he opens the door. He's like picking up the heaviest bags intentionally and waddling to the kitchen. He's just so proud of himself for this accomplishment. It's giving them those little reminders that you are capable. And just because it's hard doesn't mean that it's always going to be hard, and giving them the learner mindset as well. So I think that's really critical. It's not I can't now, because that's if you believe in quantum physics, and again Joe Dispenza, you just put that out that you're always going to be kind of a step away from attaining that goal, because when is now? So if I can't now, it's a perpetual I can't now. So instead of I can't now, I'm learning now. I'm learning how to do this thing. So it's not that I can't do it. It's just like with his jiu-jitsu, which he hated at first.
Right.
We had to make him stay on the mat. And then we were just on vacation, and I look over and he's rolling with his baby brother. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, says some move. And he's so proud of like, do it with me, not the baby.
Right. That's a bit sketch.
It was padded all around, but he's developing this confidence. So instead of saying I can't, which is what he was saying during practice as well, it's I'm learning.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because it's the smallest tweak. It's so simplistic. It takes no extra effort. It is not difficult to implement. It is a mindset shift and a verbiage change with children.